My name is Robin Chandler, 34 years old, and I never thought my data analysis skills would uncover a company-wide fraud scheme. It started on Employee Appreciation Day at Meridian Technologies, when glossy gift boxes appeared on every desk. As I reached for mine, my manager Gregory passed by and whispered urgently, "Don't open that." When I asked why, he replied, "Can't you see?" I examined the box closer and felt my blood freeze. The label read, "Robin, not Robin." A small detail that revealed everything. I didn't open it, I forwarded it. If you've ever had a gut feeling that something wasn't right at your workplace, hit that like button and subscribe. Let me show you how paying attention to small details can uncover big deceptions. Numbers have always made sense to me in a way people sometimes don't. Where others see random figures, I see patterns, outliers, and stories told through data. This natural affinity led me to pursue a master's degree in statistical analysis from Northwestern University, graduating with honors and a passion for letting the data speak its truth. After a brief stint at a market research firm where I felt my skills were underutilized, I landed what I thought was my dream job at Meridian Technologies, a mid-sized software company specializing in healthcare management systems. With 800 employees and offices in 3 states, Meridian portrayed itself as the perfect balance between corporate stability and startup innovation. Their recruitment materials highlighted transparency work, life balance, and a people-first culture that immediately appealed to me. We value analytical minds that question assumptions and find solutions in the data, the hiring manager told me during my interview. Those words sang to me like a siren song, promising a workplace where my natural skepticism would be an asset rather than a liability. I joined the financial analytics department, reporting directly to Gregory Pearson, a veteran finance professional with 20 years of experience and a reputation for being demanding but fair. My role involved overseeing expense tracking and budget allocation across departments, giving me unprecedented access to the company's financial nervous system. Your job isn't just to track the numbers, Gregory explained during my orientation. It's to make sure they make sense. If something looks off, I expect you to flag it. The first 6 months were everything I had hoped for. I established efficient reporting systems, identified cost-saving opportunities, and earned recognition for my thorough quarterly analysis. The company culture seemed to match its promises, with regular town halls where executives shared performance metrics and answered employee questions with apparent candor. David Carpenter, the CEO, cultivated a charismatic presence, walking through the office in casual attire, asking about weekend plans and remembering personal details about employees' lives. He frequently referred to Meridian as our family company and emphasized that every employee contributed to its success. Transparency builds trust was one of his favorite phrases, often repeated during company meetings. And trust is the foundation of our success. Jennifer Morris, the head of human resources, complimented David's approachable style with her own brand of corporate charm. Always impeccably dressed in designer suits, and with a smile that never quite reached her eyes, Jennifer ran the HR department with polished efficiency. She organized team-building events, wellness initiatives, and recognition programs that received positive feedback on internal surveys. "My door is always open," she would say, though few employees ever tested this claim. In those early days, I also formed a friendship with Alicia Winters, a marketing specialist whose office was across from mine. Alicia had been with Meridian for 3 years and served as my unofficial guide to company culture. With her quick wit and pragmatic outlook, she helped me navigate the unwritten rules that exist in any workplace. "Meridian is great compared to most places," she told me over lunch one day. "Just don't rock the boat too much. They talk about valuing questions, but nobody really wants to be questioned." I should have paid more attention to that warning. The first hint that something was amiss came 8 months into my tenure during the annual budget planning cycle. While analyzing department expenditures, I noticed several discrepancies in the HR budget, particularly in the employee benefits category. Expenses were recorded in oddly rounded numbers, and vendor identifications were inconsistently applied. When I brought this to Gregory's attention, he seemed momentarily concerned before dismissing it. HR has some special vendor arrangements and confidential employee programs, he explained, not quite meeting my eyes. Their accounting sometimes looks different because of that. I accepted this explanation initially, but made a mental note to watch for similar patterns. They didn't take long to reappear. Just a week later, the company announced a series of cost-cutting measures despite quarterly reports showing 15% year-over-year growth. The cuts primarily affected everyday employee expenses. The free snack program was scaled back, professional development budgets were frozen, and the annual holiday party was downgraded from its usual upscale venue to an in-office celebration. Preparing for market uncertainties, David explained in the announcement email. These minor adjustments will help us maintain our growth trajectory without affecting our core operations. The explanation made business sense on the surface, but contradicted the financial data I had access to. Our cash reserves were healthy, and profit margins were expanding. The cuts seemed unnecessary from a purely financial perspective. Then, just 2 weeks after announcing these cuts, Jennifer sent a company-wide email introducing Employee Appreciation Day, a new initiative to celebrate our most valuable asset, our people. The email promised personalized gift boxes for every employee and an afternoon of recognition activities. The cognitive dissonance was striking. Why cut basic employee benefits only to introduce a flashy appreciation event? I wondered if the gift boxes cost less than the snack program they'd eliminated, and made a mental note to look for the expense records when they appeared. Despite my growing skepticism, I still felt excited about the Appreciation Day. Perhaps I was being overly analytical, seeing patterns where there were only coincidences. The promise of personalized recognition appealed to my desire to belong, to be seen as a valued member of the team. The morning of Employee Appreciation Day, I arrived at work earlier than usual, partly from anticipation and partly from habit. The office had been decorated overnight with banners and balloons in company colors. A breakfast spread of pastries and coffee sat in the break room with a sign reading, "We appreciate you," in elaborate script. As employees filtered in, the atmosphere grew festive. Colleagues chatted animatedly, speculating about what might be in the promised gift boxes. I joined a conversation with Alicia and 2 software developers from the 3rd floor, enjoying the break from our usual focused work routine. I heard they got custom gifts based on employee surveys, one developer said, reaching for a chocolate croissant. That would be impressive, Alicia replied, though I caught a note of skepticism in her voice. They barely remember my name in meetings, let alone my personal interests. At precisely 9 o'clock, Jennifer and 2 HR assistants appeared, rolling carts loaded with elegant white boxes, tied with blue ribbons, the company colors. They moved from desk to desk, distributing boxes with flourish and congratulating everyone on being part of the Meridian family. I returned to my desk to find a pristine white box waiting for me, looking almost exactly like those being delivered throughout the office. Almost, but not quite. And that almost would change everything. The gift box on my desk looked elegant at first glance, a white rectangular package with a shimmering blue ribbon matching our company colors. It was approximately 10 inches long, 8 inches wide, and 4 inches deep, substantial enough to suggest a thoughtful gift inside. A small white card was attached to the top, printed with what appeared to be a personalized message. Around me, my colleagues were already opening their packages with exclamations of delight. Across the aisle, Marcus from Data Security pulled out a sleek insulated coffee mug with the company logo and a gift card to a popular coffee chain. 2 desks down, Sophia from Compliance was examining a wireless phone charger and what looked like another gift card. I reached for my box, just as Gregory, my manager, passed behind my desk. He slowed momentarily and leaned down as if checking something on my monitor. In a voice barely above a whisper, he said, "Don't open that." The warning was so unexpected that I initially thought I'd misheard him. I turned to ask for clarification, but he was already walking away, his posture stiff and his expression unreadable. Confused, I watched him disappear around the corner toward his office. Why would Gregory warn me against opening a company gift? It made no sense. I looked back at the box, now seeing it with newly suspicious eyes. "Can't you see?" he had asked. What was I supposed to see? I examined the box more carefully, noticing details I had initially missed. The card attached to the top had my name printed on it, but it was spelled Robin instead of Robin. A small error, perhaps, but HR had my correct name on file for the 3 years I'd worked here. The paper quality of the card seemed slightly different, too less textured than the ones I could see on my colleagues' desks. The ribbon, while blue, was a slightly different shade than the official meridian blue I was accustomed to seeing in all our branding materials. As a data analyst, I was trained to notice discrepancies, and these subtle differences set off alarm bells in my mind. I glanced around to make sure no one was watching, then carefully lifted the box without untying the ribbon. It was lighter than it appeared, suggesting the contents might differ from the substantial gifts my colleagues were receiving. When I tilted it slightly, something inside slid with a papery sound, not the solid thunk of a mug or electronic device. This strange box brought to mind questions that had been forming in my mind over the past several months. 3 weeks earlier, I'd been working late, reviewing departmental expense reports, when I noticed peculiar patterns in the HR department's expenditures. There were inconsistencies in how employee benefit costs were allocated, with some categories showing surprisingly high expenses, while others were suspiciously low. When it casually mentioned these discrepancies to Jennifer during a budget review meeting, Shed dismissed my concerns with a wave of her manicured hand. The HR budget has certain confidential allocations that wouldn't make sense to someone outside the department, Shed said with a condescending smile. Focus on the overall totals, which are perfectly in line with projections. The interaction had left me feeling both insulted and suspicious. I had access to all departmental budgets as part of my job, and there shouldn't have been financial activities too confidential for the financial analytics team to understand. Now, looking at this box with my misspelled name, I wondered if there was a connection between those budget irregularities and whatever was happening with these supposedly personalized employee gifts. Alicia approached my desk, her gift box already opened. "Hey, Aren't you going to open yours?" she asked, holding up a stainless steel water bottle and what appeared to be a gift card. In a minute, I replied, trying to sound casual. "What did you get?" "Just this bottle and a $25 Amazon gift card," she said, a hint of disappointment in her voice. The email made it sound like the gifts would be personalized, but this seems pretty generic. Still, free stuff is free stuff, right? I nodded absently, my mind racing. "Is the gift card activated? Have you checked the balance?" Alicia gave me a curious look. "No, not yet. Why?" "Just wondering," I said with a shrug. "Sometimes those cards need to be activated." After Alicia returned to her desk, I casually walked around the office, pretending to get coffee or chat with colleagues, while actually observing the opened gift boxes. Most contained similar items, a company-branded product, like a mug, water bottle, or notebook, paired with what appeared to be a $25 gift card to various retailers. However, I noticed something odd. When I passed by the executive suite, I glimpsed an opened box on an assistant's desk that contained a significantly more expensive-looking leather portfolio and what appeared to be a gift card with a different design than the others I had seen. As I made my way back to my desk, I noticed Jennifer from HR, watching me from across the room. When our eyes met, she smiled brightly and started walking toward me. "Robin, I see you haven't opened your gift yet," she said, emphasizing my correctly pronounced name while gesturing to the box with the misspelled label. "Is something wrong?" "Oh, I was just saving it," I said, forcing a smile. "I like to open gifts when I can really appreciate them." Jennifer placed her hand on the box, her red fingernails stark against the white packaging. "Nonsense. Everyone is opening them now. It's part of the shared experience." She pushed the box slightly closer to me. "Go ahead, I want to see your reaction." Her insistence made my internal alarms ring louder. "Actually, I'm right in the middle of analyzing some urgent data," I lied, gesturing to my monitor where a spreadsheet was displayed. "I'll definitely open it during the appreciation lunch." Jennifer's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "Well, don't wait too long. The gift cards need to be activated by the end of the day. She patted the box once more, before walking away, her heels clicking sharply against the floor tiles. As soon as she was out of sight, I took out my phone and discreetly photographed my gift box from several angles, capturing the misspelled name card and the slightly off-color ribbon. Then, moving as naturally as possible, I walked around and took quick photos of several opened boxes and their contents, making sure to get clear images of the gift cards. Throughout the morning, I felt Jennifer's gaze returning to me, periodically checking whether I'd opened the box. I maintained the pretense of being deeply engaged in my work while my mind raced with questions. What was different about my gift? Why did Gregory warn me? And why was Jennifer so insistent that I open it immediately? By lunchtime, I had gathered enough visual evidence to confirm that there were indeed two different types of gift boxes circulating in the office. While the differences were subtle, they were unmistakable to someone trained to look for patterns and inconsistencies, and I was becoming increasingly certain that my unopened box held something very different from the corporate gifts my colleagues had received. Once back at my desk, with the suspicious box still unopened, I transferred the photos from my phone to my computer and began analyzing them methodically. Years of data analysis had taught me to look for patterns, and patterns were definitely emerging. I created a simple classification system, labeling the photos of gift boxes as Type A and Type B. Type A boxes, which constituted the majority of what I had observed, contained the company-branded items and $25 gift cards. These boxes had consistently aligned corners, uniform ribbon color, and correctly spelled name cards on heavy stock paper. My box, which I classified as Type B, based on the external differences, remained a mystery inside, but clearly belonged to a different category. The subtle differences in paper quality ribbon shade and the misspelling of my name suggested a completely different preparation process. As I examined my growing dataset, I noticed another pattern. Type B boxes appeared to be distributed to specific employees rather than randomly throughout the company. The few I had identified so far seemed to be given to employees in analytical roles or positions with financial oversight, including myself. I needed to speak with Gregory to understand his cryptic warning. I messaged him asking for a quick lunch meeting off-site, away from the office cameras and potential eavesdroppers. His one-word response, "Agreed," confirmed my suspicions that something serious was happening. We met at a small deli 2 blocks from the office, choosing a corner table where we could speak privately. Gregory looked tired, with dark circles under his eyes, suggesting he hadn't been sleeping well. "You didn't open the box," he stated, rather than asked, as we sat down with our sandwiches. "No, I noticed the discrepancies you hinted at," I replied. "The misspelled name, different paper quality off color ribbon. But I don't understand what it means or why you warned me." Gregory glanced around before leaning forward. 3 days ago, I was working late preparing budget projections. Jennifer and David were in the conference room, with the door partially open, not realizing I was still there. I overheard them discussing the appreciation gifts and saw Jennifer reviewing a spreadsheet. He took a sip of water before continuing. The spreadsheet had employee names categorized into 2 groups. One was labeled Standard Recognition, the other Performance Review. Your name was in the second group, along with about 20 other employees. "Performance Review," I echoed. "I'm not scheduled for a review until next quarter." "I don't think it's that kind of review," Gregory said grimly. "I noticed a pattern in the list. Everyone in the performance review group has recently questioned company policies, identified discrepancies in reporting, or pushed back against executive decisions." A chill ran through me as I processed this information. So the different gift boxes are some kind of targeted action, Gregory finished. "I don't know exactly what's in them, but given the financial irregularities you've been investigating, I didn't think it was a coincidence." "The financial irregularities that you dismissed when I brought them to your attention," I pointed out, unable to keep a note of accusation from my voice. Gregory had the decency to look ashamed. "I was wrong to dismiss your concerns. The truth is, I've noticed problems too, but I convinced myself it wasn't my place to question how HR or the executives allocated funds." When I saw your name on that list. He trailed off. You decided to warn me. I finished for him. Thank you for that. But now we need to figure out what's really going on. Back at the office, I began a more systematic investigation, using my data access to dig deeper into company records while maintaining the appearance of conducting routine analyses. I created a secure password-protected spreadsheet to track my findings, beginning with a comprehensive list of all employees and which type of gift they had received. Gathering this information required subtle questioning and observation. I visited different departments with fabricated reasons, noting which employees had Type A versus Type B boxes. By the end of the day, I had confirmed that 23 employees had received the suspicious Type B boxes, including myself. Next, I cross-referenced this list against various employee attributes, department tenure, performance ratings, salary band, and notably instances of raising concerns or questions about company policies. The correlation was striking. 91% of employees who had documented instances of questioning company decisions had received Type B boxes. This couldn't be coincidence, but I needed more evidence to understand what was happening. Using my authorized access to financial records, I began examining the purchase orders and vendor invoices for the Employee Appreciation Day gifts. What I found was disturbing. The official purchase order showed an expense of $50 per employee for the appreciation gifts totaling $40,000 for our 800-person company. However, the invoices from vendors only totaled approximately $23,000. Where had the remaining $17,000 gone? Digging deeper, I found a separate invoice from a vendor I'd never seen before. Premier Corporate Gifting Solutions for precisely $17,000. The invoice was vague, listing only executive gifts as the purchased items. This vendor didn't appear in any other transaction in our financial history. Working late into the evening after most employees had left, I used our vendor management system to research this mysterious company. Premier Corporate Gifting Solutions had been added to our approved vendor list just 3 weeks earlier, with Jennifer Morris listed as the sponsoring executive. The company had a website that looked professional at first glance, but contained multiple generic stock photos and no specific contact information beyond a form. I was so engrossed in my investigation that I didn't notice Jennifer approaching my desk until she spoke. Working late again, Robin. Her voice startled me, and I quickly minimized my research screens. Just finishing some quarterly projections, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. Jennifer perched on the edge of my desk, invading my personal space in a way that felt deliberately intimidating. I noticed you never opened your appreciation gift. That seems ungrateful. I brought it home. I lied. I opened it there. The box was actually locked in my desk drawer. Really, Jennifer's perfectly shaped eyebrow arched in disbelief. And what did you think of it? It was a trap, and I knew it. Without knowing what was in the box, I couldn't answer honestly. It was very thoughtful, I said vaguely. Thank you for organizing it. Jennifer studied me for a long moment, her smile never reaching her eyes. You know Robin Meridian values team players, people who support the company vision, rather than constantly questioning it. She stood up, smoothing her skirt. Not everyone is the right fit for our culture, no matter how technically skilled they might be. The threat was thinly veiled. I am a team player, I responded. That's why I take data integrity so seriously. The team succeeds when we're working with accurate information. Interesting perspective, Jennifer said, already turning to leave. Just remember, in every company, some people advance, while others don't. She walked away, leaving the ominous statement hanging in the air. Her visit confirmed what I already suspected. I was being targeted along with others who had questioned company practices. But I still didn't know exactly what was in my gift box, or how it connected to the financial irregularities it'd been uncovering. Whatever it was, I knew I needed to continue my investigation, carefully documenting everything and building a secure case. As I packed up to leave, I sent a text message to Alicia. Can we meet for coffee before work tomorrow? Need to ask you something important. Her affirmative response came immediately, and I felt a small relief at having at least one potential ally in whatever corporate storm was brewing. I placed my still unopened gift box in my backpack. Whatever it contained, I wasn't going to open it until I understood the full scope of what was happening at Meridian Technologies. The next morning, I met Alicia at a coffee shop several blocks from the office. After ensuring we had privacy, I shared my discoveries about the two types of gift boxes and asked about her gift card. "Have you checked the balance on your Amazon gift card?" I asked. Alicia gave me a puzzled look but pulled out her wallet and retrieved the card. "Not yet, but I can check now." She took out her phone, navigated to the Amazon gift card balance page, and entered the card's code. Her expression changed from curiosity to surprise. "That's weird. It says $25, but the card itself is labeled as $100. She showed me the screen, then flipped the physical card over to reveal the printed value, $100. So they gave out cards labeled as $100 values, but only loaded $25 on them, I mused. Can I take a photo of that? After documenting Alicia's card, I explained my suspicions about the different types of gift boxes and the financial discrepancies it discovered. Alicia listened intently, her marketing specialist mind quickly connecting the dots. "This could explain some weird things I've noticed too," she said. "Last quarter, the marketing budget for employee communications showed expenses for programs that never happened. When I asked about it, I was told it was a coding error, and not to worry about it." "Do you still have access to those records?" I asked. "I should. Let me check when I get to the office." With Alicia's help, my investigation expanded beyond the gift boxes to examine patterns across multiple employee benefit programs. Back at my desk, I created a secure, encrypted folder on my personal cloud storage to back up my findings, knowing that if what I suspected was true, my company access could be revoked at any moment. Throughout the day, I methodically gathered data on various employee programs from the past 2 years: holiday bonuses, wellness incentives, professional development funds, and team-building activities. In each case, I found similar patterns. The budgeted amounts exceeded actual employee benefits, with the difference flowing to mysterious vendors or miscategorized expense accounts. Alicia sent me the marketing records she had mentioned, which confirmed another piece of the puzzle. Several employee programs had been prominently advertised internally, but implemented at a fraction of the promised scale, with most employees unaware they were receiving less than what had been communicated. By mid-afternoon, I had identified a systematic pattern of what appeared to be embezzlement through employee benefit programs. The total amount diverted over 2 years exceeded $300,000, a significant sum that had been hidden through clever accounting tricks, and the fact that most employees wouldn't compare their benefits to what was budgeted, or promised. I needed to understand who else had received the suspicious Type B gift boxes. During my lunch break, I tracked down Carlos from IT, whose name I had seen on Gregory's performance review list. Under the pretext of discussing a data integration project, I steered the conversation toward the appreciation gifts. "What did you think of your gift yesterday?" I asked casually. Carlos glanced around before responding quietly. "I didn't open it. Something seemed off about it." "Like what?" I pressed. "The label had my last name misspelled, and this might sound paranoid, but I found it right after I had questioned some unusual network access patterns from the executive accounts." This was the confirmation I needed. Carlos and I agreed to speak more privately after work, and he promised to bring his unopened box. By the end of the day, it connected with 5 other employees who had received Type B boxes. None had opened them all, had noticed small discrepancies, and each had recently raised concerns about company practices. We agreed to meet after hours at a restaurant far from the office to compare notes. The meeting revealed a disturbing pattern. Each person had identified potential ethical or financial irregularities within their area of expertise: questionable vendor relationships, inconsistent financial reporting, unusual data access patterns, or misleading communications. And each had brought these concerns to management, only to have them dismissed or explained away. Rachel from vendor management had the most damning information. I discovered that 3 of our newest vendors all trace back to the same address, a virtual office space in Delaware. When I look deeper, the beneficial ownership of these companies appears to connect to Jennifer Morris's brother-in-law. So Jennifer is directing company funds to vendors connected to her family, I summarized. That explains the kickback scheme. Not just Jennifer, Rachel replied grimly. Each of these vendor approvals has David Carpenter's signature as well. He has to be involved. This revelation shifted my understanding of what we were facing. This wasn't just an HR department manipulating employee benefits. It was a systematic fraud scheme orchestrated from the highest levels of the company. That night, I worked until dawn, compiling all the evidence into a comprehensive analysis. The pattern was clear. Meridian Technologies had been systematically diverting funds intended for employee benefits and other operational expenses to shell companies connected to HR Director Jennifer Morris and approved by CEO David Carpenter. The Employee Appreciation Day appeared to be part of this scheme, with the 23 employees who had raised questions or might uncover the fraud targeted for some kind of action via the Type B gift boxes. But what exactly was in those boxes remained a mystery. The next morning, I received an unexpected meeting request from Jennifer Morris for a performance discussion scheduled for the following day. The timing could not be coincidental. Either she had discovered my investigation or was proceeding with whatever plan the Type B boxes represented. I felt the pressure mounting and knew I needed to accelerate my investigation. During lunch, I met briefly with Gregory to share what I'd discovered. "This is worse than I thought," he said after reviewing my evidence. "You need to be careful, Robin. If they realize how much you know—" "I have a meeting with Jennifer tomorrow," I told him. "A performance discussion." Gregory's face paled. "That's the same meeting invitation received by 2 employees last month who are no longer with the company. Both were terminated for alleged performance issues, despite having excellent reviews just weeks earlier." The pieces suddenly fell into place. The Type B boxes weren't just different gifts. They were likely termination notices or some form of documentation preparing the groundwork for dismissal of employees who might expose the fraud. That afternoon, I encountered another targeted employee, Diana from compliance, looking distressed in the break room. "Everything okay?" I asked quietly. "I just had my meeting with Jennifer," she whispered. "They're putting me on a performance improvement plan for supposedly missing compliance deadlines that I know I met. I have the documentation, but they're saying it wasn't submitted properly." This confirmed my suspicions about what was happening to employees who received the Type B boxes. We were being systematically discredited and pushed out to protect the fraudulent scheme. I needed to accelerate my plan. After work, I stayed late, copying critical evidence to my secured cloud storage and organizing it for maximum impact. As I was finishing, I decided to finally examine my unopened gift box. Using latex gloves to preserve any evidence, I carefully untied the ribbon and lifted the lid. Inside, as I had suspected, was not a corporate gift, but a formal letter notifying me of performance concerns and scheduling a series of review meetings that would almost certainly lead to termination. The document cited questioning established processes and exceeding authorized data access as primary concerns, despite both activities being explicitly part of my job description. What they didn't know was that I had been meticulously documenting all of my data access with timestamps and business justifications precisely to protect myself against such accusations. As I photographed the contents of the box, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. The letter was dated 2 weeks earlier, indicating this performance action had been planned well before any legitimate performance issues could have arisen. This was preemptive elimination of a potential whistleblower. With this final piece of evidence in hand, I knew exactly what I needed to do. The next morning, before my scheduled meeting with Jennifer, I would implement my response to their scheme, one that would leverage my strongest skill, letting the data tell its truth. With evidence mounting and my scheduled meeting with Jennifer looming, I knew I needed to compile everything into an irrefutable case. Working from home that evening, I organized my findings into clear categories that even non-financial people could understand. First, the employee gift discrepancy documentation, showing the $50 per employee budgeted versus the approximately $28 actually spent, with comparative photos of the different gift boxes and evidence of the pros. selectively loaded gift cards. Second, the Shell vendor scheme records connecting Premier Corporate Gifting Solutions and 3 other vendors to the same Delaware address, along with corporate registration documents showing connections to Jennifer Morris's brother-in-law, Thomas Welch. Third, the targeted employee pattern, a list of all 23 employees who received Type B boxes with documentation showing that each had recently identified potential ethical or financial issues within the company. Fourth, the historical pattern. 2 years of financial records showing systematic diversion of employee benefit funds, totaling over $300,000, with each instance authorized by Jennifer Morris and approved by David Carpenter. And finally, the termination strategy evidence, showing how employees who asked too many questions were systematically discredited through suddenly appearing performance issues, including my own predated performance concern letter. I created 3 copies of the full documentation, one for my personal records, one to provide to appropriate authorities, and one to present during my confrontation at Meridian. Each was organized with executive summaries, data visualizations, showing the patterns and supporting documentation, meticulously cross-referenced. By midnight, I had a comprehensive case file that would be difficult to dismiss as coincidence or misunderstanding, but I still needed to decide exactly how to proceed. The next morning, I arrived at the office early before most employees. I needed to secure my personal belongings and prepare for what would likely be my last day at Meridian Technologies, regardless of the outcome. I removed personal photos and items from my desk, ensured my work computer contained no personal data, and confirmed that all my evidence was backed up in multiple secure locations. Gregory arrived shortly after I did, looking concerned. "Are you ready for your meeting with Jennifer?" he asked quietly. "More than ready," I replied. "But I need your advice on something." I outlined my plan to forward my evidence to multiple parties simultaneously: the board of directors, the external auditors, the corporate compliance officer, and select trusted journalists who covered corporate fraud. Gregory considered this thoughtfully. "The timing is critical. The board is meeting today at 10 to review quarterly financials. Jennifer scheduled your meeting for 9, probably to have you terminated before the board meeting. So, if I send everything just before the board meeting starts, they'll have it in front of them when David and Jennifer present the financial review." Gregory finished. "But be careful. Once you send this, there's no going back." "I know," I said. "But I can't be part of a company that operates this way, and I can't let them continue targeting employees who are just doing their jobs with integrity." With Gregory's support, I refined my plan. I would attend the meeting with Jennifer at 9, recording it if possible to document any inappropriate threats or admissions. Immediately afterward, regardless of the outcome, I would initiate the evidence distribution, timing it to reach the board just as their meeting began. I also decided to forward my unopened gift box to the legal department with a detailed explanation, ensuring that physical evidence of the targeting scheme would be preserved. As 9 o'clock approached, I received an unexpected visitor at my desk. Alicia came by looking nervous. "I heard about your meeting with Jennifer," she said. "The rumor mill says they're cleaning house of problem employees. Be careful in there." "I will," I assured her. "Actually, I could use your help with something." I explained that I needed someone to ensure my evidence was sent if I was unable to do it myself, without giving her enough details to put her at risk. Alicia agreed immediately. "Whatever they're doing, I know you wouldn't be in trouble unless you were doing the right thing," she said. "Just text me if you need me to hit send." At precisely 9 o'clock, I walked into Jennifer's office, my tablet, containing all my evidence tucked under my arm. She wasn't alone. David Carpenter sat beside her desk, his usually friendly demeanor replaced by a stern businesslike expression. "Robin, thank you for joining us." Jennifer began, her voice professionally detached. "We've asked you here today to discuss some concerns about your recent performance and adherence to company policies. Before we begin," I said calmly, "I'd like to clarify what this meeting is about. Is this related to the letter I received in my employee appreciation gift box? The one dated 2 weeks ago?" citing performance issues that hadn't occurred yet. Jennifer and David exchanged a quick glance, genuine surprise flashing across their faces. "You opened your gift?" Jennifer asked, momentarily disconcerted. "I did. And I found it interesting that my performance concerns were documented before any actual performance issues occurred. Almost as if the real issue was something else entirely." David leaned forward. "Robin, this attitude is exactly what we're concerned about. You seem to question established company processes rather than focusing on your assigned duties." "My assigned duties include identifying financial discrepancies and ensuring data integrity," I replied. "Which is why I've been investigating the systematic diversion of employee benefit funds to shell companies connected to Jennifer's family members." The room went silent. David's face hardened while Jennifer's complexion paled visibly. "That's a serious and completely unfounded accusation," David finally said, his voice dangerously quiet. "It's not unfounded," I countered, maintaining my composure. "I have comprehensive documentation showing how over $300,000 has been diverted over the past 2 years, including the most recent employee appreciation gifts, which were budgeted at $50 per employee, but actually cost approximately $28, with the difference flowing to a shell company called Premier Corporate Gifting Solutions." Jennifer attempted to regain control of the meeting. "This is precisely the kind of disruptive behavior that's led to this performance review. You're accessing financial information outside your scope and making wild accusations based on incomplete understanding." "My scope explicitly includes all departmental budgets and expenditures," I reminded her, "and my understanding is quite complete. For example, I understand that Premier Corporate Gifting Solutions shares an address with 3 other Meridian vendors, all of which trace back to Thomas Welch, your brother-in-law." David stood abruptly. "This meeting is over. Robin, you're suspended effective, immediately pending an investigation into unauthorized data access. Please surrender your company ID and leave the premises." I had anticipated this reaction. "I'll comply with that request, but you should know that complete documentation of the fraud scheme has been prepared and will be delivered to the board of directors, external auditors, and the corporate compliance officer within the process." David's face flushed with anger. "That would constitute theft of confidential company information, which is a terminable offense and potentially legally actionable. Documentation of potential fraud is protected under whistleblower statutes," I replied, having researched this extensively. "And I've been careful to only access data within my authorized scope." As the confrontation escalated, my phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Gregory board members arriving now for 10 a.m. meeting. "Timing is critical. I needed to wrap this up and execute my plan. I'll gather my belongings and leave as requested," I said, standing up. "But I suggest you both prepare for some difficult questions in the board meeting this morning." Jennifer called security to escort me from the building, a final humiliation attempt that I had anticipated. As the security officer watched me collect my few remaining personal items, I discreetly sent Alicia our predetermined signal text, Plan B activated. Within minutes, as I was being escorted through the lobby, my comprehensive evidence package was being simultaneously delivered to the board members, as they gathered in the conference room, to the external auditing team, who maintained an Aller Evidence on-site office, to the corporate compliance officer, and to 3 respected financial journalists who had previously covered corporate fraud cases. The gift box that had been meant to facilitate my quiet removal from the company had instead triggered the exposure of the entire fraudulent operation. The box I never opened had been forwarded to precisely the people who needed to see it, along with irrefutable evidence of the larger scheme it was part of. As I walked out of Meridian's offices, I felt a complex mixture of emotions: vindication, anxiety about the future, but most prominently a profound sense of relief. I had stood up for what was right, protected fellow employees from unjust treatment, and exposed a fraud that had victimized the entire company. Whatever happened next, I knew I had acted with integrity and used my analytical skills for their highest purpose, revealing truth hidden within the data. The morning after my dramatic exit from Meridian Technologies, I woke up to a flurry of text messages and missed calls. My evidence package had created the corporate equivalent of a bomb detonation. Gregory had texted board meeting turned into chaos. David tried to dismiss your evidence, but 3 board members had already reviewed it. Emergency executive session called. Stay available. Alicia's message was more colorful. Holy S. HR department, in complete meltdown. Jennifer locked in her office with legal team. Everyone talking about fraud and gift boxes. What did you do? Several of the other employees who had received Type B boxes reported that their performance meetings had been suddenly canceled. Diana from compliance wrote, "My improvement plan has been postponed for review. Something big is happening." I had anticipated fallout, but the speed and scale of the response surprised even me. By noon, I received a formal email from Theodore Banks, the chairman of Meridian's board, requesting a meeting to discuss my concerns regarding financial irregularities. The carefully worded message included assurances about whistleblower protections and my employment status. I agreed to meet the following day, at a neutral location, a conference room at the board's corporate law firm. I spent the intervening time preparing additional documentation and consulting with an employment attorney to understand my rights and options. The meeting with the board representatives was tense, but respectful. 3 board members attended, along with an external attorney specializing in corporate compliance and the head of the audit committee. Notably absent were David Carpenter and Jennifer Morris. "Miss Chandler, we've reviewed the documentation you provided." Theodore Banks began, his tone grave. "While we're still verifying all aspects, the initial analysis by our audit team confirms several of your key findings. We're taking this matter extremely seriously." For the next 2 hours, I walked them through my evidence, methodically answering technical questions and providing additional context where needed. I emphasized that my concern had never been personal, but focused on the integrity of the company's financial practices and the fair treatment of employees. "What tipped you off initially?" asked Elaine Rodriguez, head of the audit committee. "Inconsistencies in the employee benefits accounting," I explained. The numbers didn't reconcile with the actual benefits received by employees. When I started tracking the discrepancies, patterns emerged that couldn't be explained by normal accounting variations. "And the gift boxes. How did you connect those to the financial irregularities?" Theodore asked. I explained how Gregory's warning had prompted my closer examination of the box, which led to discovering the pattern of targeted employees and the connection to the fraudulent vendor scheme. As the meeting concluded, Theodore made an unexpected request. "Would you be willing to assist our forensic accounting team? Your familiarity with the data and patterns would be invaluable to their investigation." I agreed, with conditions ensuring my independence and protection from retaliation. By the end of the week, I was working alongside external forensic accountants to unravel the full extent of the fraud. Meanwhile, Meridian Technologies was experiencing a corporate earthquake. David Carpenter and Jennifer Morris were placed on administrative leave pending investigation. An interim CEO was appointed from outside the company. The HR department underwent a complete leadership change, with many of Jennifer's direct reports also suspended, as the investigation determined their level of involvement. 2 weeks into the investigation, the forensic team had uncovered far more than my initial findings. The fraud extended beyond employee benefits to include kickbacks from vendors, manipulated performance bonuses, and falsified expense reports. The total misappropriated funds approached $2 million over a 4-year period. The most vindicating discovery came when the forensic team analyzed all 23 Type B gift boxes, which had been collected as evidence. Each contained nearly identical performance concern letters, all predated, and all targeting employees who had questioned financial or ethical practices. The systematic nature of the targeting was impossible to dismiss as coincidence. One afternoon, as I was reviewing vendor payment records with the forensic team, I received an unexpected visitor. Rachel, from vendor management, one of the employees who had received a Type B box, stopped by the conference room we were using as an investigation headquarters. "I just wanted to thank you," she said. "If you hadn't exposed this when you did, I would have been gone by the end of the month. My performance meeting was scheduled for next week." I couldn't have put it all together without the information you provided about the vendor connections, I told her. This was a team effort by everyone who refused to ignore the red flags. More than just the targeted employees were affected by the revelations. Staff throughout Meridian expressed shock, anger, and betrayal upon learning how funds intended for their benefits had been systematically diverted. The company culture, once characterized by trust and leadership, fractured under the weight of these disclosures. The board called an all-hands meeting to address the situation directly. Theodore Banks spoke candidly about the fraud, the ongoing investigation, and the company's commitment to accountability and reform. We failed in our oversight responsibilities, he acknowledged, a rare admission from board leadership. The systems that should have prevented this breakdown were inadequate. That will change beginning today. He then announced several immediate changes: a new, more robust whistleblower protection program, an independent audit of all employee benefit programs, and a commitment to transparent communication about company finances. To my surprise, Theodore then asked me to address the company. Standing before hundreds of colleagues, many of whom I had never directly worked with, I felt the weight of the situation acutely. "I'm not here to point fingers or assign blame," I began. "I'm here because I believe in using data to find truth. The patterns in our financial data told a story that needed to be heard, not just for the company's integrity, but for every employee who comes to work each day, expecting fairness and honesty." I explained how the investigation had begun with a simple observation about inconsistent numbers, emphasized that many employees had noticed problems but feared speaking up, and highlighted how the company's future depended on creating an environment where questioning was valued rather than punished. As I concluded my remarks, something unexpected happened. People began to applaud slowly at first, and then building to a standing ovation. It wasn't celebration of the fraud's discovery, but rather an expression of collective relief that the truth had finally emerged and that change was possible. In the weeks that followed, legal consequences began to unfold. Jennifer Morris and David Carpenter were terminated for cause after the investigation conclusively proved their involvement. Criminal charges were filed by the district attorney's office for embezzlement and fraud. Several of Jennifer's direct reports who had knowingly participated in the scheme were also terminated and faced potential legal action. For those of us who had been targeted with Type B boxes, vindication came in the form of formal apologies from the board, removal of any fraudulent performance documentation from our files, and offers of compensation for the stress and potential career damage we had experienced. The gift box that was meant to silence me had instead become the catalyst for exposing a systemic fraud and transforming a company culture. By forwarding rather than opening it, I had turned their weapon into the instrument of truth. 6 months after the gift box incident, Meridian Technologies had transformed almost beyond recognition. With David and Jennifer facing criminal proceedings for embezzlement and fraud, the company had appointed Catherine Donovan, a respected industry veteran, known for ethical leadership, as the new CEO. The board had undergone significant changes as well, with 3 members resigning due to their failure of oversight and new directors with backgrounds in corporate governance and compliance taking their places. Theodore Banks remained as chairman, having demonstrated genuine commitment to reforming the company. I had been offered a new position as Director of Financial Integrity, leading a newly created department responsible for ensuring transparent financial practices and protecting whistleblowers. My team included several of the employees who had received Type B boxes, their analytical skills and ethical courage, now valued rather than targeted. The external audit had revealed the full extent of the fraud, nearly $2 million diverted over 4 years through elaborate schemes involving shell companies, manipulated expenses, and kickbacks. Most shocking to many employees was learning that the company had actually been performing better financially than reported, with David and Jennifer deliberately understating profits to justify cutting employee benefits while skimming funds. One morning, Catherine stopped by my new office, which was significantly larger and more comfortable than my previous workspace. "How are you settling in?" she asked. "Still getting used to having a door," I replied with a smile. "And to people actually listening, when I point out discrepancies in the data. Catherine nodded understandingly. The culture change is going to take time, but every day I see progress. The new financial transparency initiatives you've implemented are already rebuilding trust. She was referring to my first major project as director creating a dashboard that gave all employees visibility into budget allocations for benefits and programs. No more mystery about what was budgeted versus what was delivered. I have something for you, Catherine said, placing a small package on my desk. Don't worry, it's not another box to forward to the authorities. Inside was a simple award inscribed with the words, "For exceptional integrity and courage in the face of adversity." It wasn't flashy or expensive, but it represented something profoundly meaningful: recognition that doing the right thing, even when difficult, was now valued at Meridian. The personal toll of the past 6 months had been significant. While I had received support from many colleagues, I'd also experienced anxiety, sleepless nights, and the emotional strain of having my professional judgment repeatedly questioned during the investigation and legal proceedings. Working with a counselor provided by the company's new mental health benefits program had helped me process these experiences and recognize the strength I'd demonstrated throughout the ordeal. I'd learned that standing up for what's right doesn't mean you don't feel fear. It means you act despite that fear. In the months following the exposure, I began mentoring younger analysts, helping them develop both technical skills and ethical judgment. One particular conversation with Zoe, a recently hired financial analyst, stood out. "I don't know if I could have done what you did," she admitted during one of our sessions. "Standing up to the CEO and HR director, risking your job, your reputation." "You know what made it possible?" I asked her. "Data. Not my opinion against theirs, but irrefutable evidence that told a clear story. That's why I always emphasize the importance of documentation and thorough analysis." "But it takes courage to act on what the data tells you," Zoe pointed out. She was right, of course. Data alone wasn't enough. It required people willing to interpret it honestly and act on those interpretations even when inconvenient or risky. The experience had transformed my approach to data analysis as well. I developed a data-based ethics monitoring system for Meridian, identifying potential red flags in financial patterns before they could develop into serious problems. This proactive approach to corporate integrity became a model that other companies began to adopt, leading to speaking engagements and consulting opportunities I had never anticipated. Perhaps the most meaningful outcome was the community that formed among the 23 employees who had received Type B boxes. We had all been targeted for the same reason: our unwillingness to ignore discrepancies and ethical concerns, and that shared experience created a powerful bond. Diana from compliance, who had been placed on a fraudulent performance improvement plan, now headed the expanded compliance department. "Remember when we were problems to be eliminated?" she remarked during a team lunch. "Now we're the solution team." Rachel from vendor management had implemented a revolutionary new vendor verification system that prevented the kind of shell company scheme Jennifer had orchestrated. "Every vendor goes through triple verification now," she explained. "No more mysterious companies with convenient addresses." Carlos from IT had developed enhanced security protocols that prevented the kind of unauthorized system access that had facilitated the fraud. "The system now tracks and flags unusual financial transactions automatically," he noted with justified pride. Together, we had not only exposed wrongdoing, but built something better from the ruins of a corrupted system. The company that had once tried to silence us now amplified our voices and valued our perspectives. 1 year to the day after the gift box incident, Meridian held an actual, genuine Employee Appreciation Day. The contrast with the previous year could not have been more striking. Instead of mysterious boxes with hidden agendas, employees received transparent recognition, including the exact monetary value of all benefits and bonuses, delivered with authentic gratitude. During the celebration, Catherine asked me to share some thoughts with the company. Standing at the podium, looking out at hundreds of colleagues whose working lives had been improved by the changes of the past year, I felt a profound sense of purpose and fulfillment. A year ago, a gift box that was meant to be the beginning of my exit became the catalyst for transformation I began. But the real change wasn't caused by one person or one discovery. It happened because enough people were willing to look at the data, speak the truth, and demand better. I continued. In data analysis, we talk about signal and noise. The signal is the meaningful information, the pattern that tells a story. The noise is everything that distracts from or obscures that pattern. In any organization, there will always be noise: office, politics, personal agendas, pressure to conform. But the signal, the truth in the data, remains for those willing to look for it. Today, as we celebrate each other and this company's renewed commitment to integrity, I want to encourage everyone to be signal seekers. Look for the truth in the numbers, in the processes, in the decisions that affect your work lives. And when you find discrepancies between what's promised and what's delivered, have the courage to speak up. The applause that followed wasn't just for me, but for every employee who had contributed to rebuilding Meridian into a company worthy of their talents and trust. We had collectively transformed a moment of corporate corruption into an opportunity for meaningful reform. Later that evening, as I packed up to leave, I found a small, elegant box on my desk with a note from Catherine. Some gift boxes contain exactly what they promise. Inside was a beautiful data visualization trophy representing Meridian's dramatically improved ethical compliance scores. This box, unlike the one I had received a year earlier, contained no hidden agenda, no threat disguised as appreciation, just a genuine acknowledgement of work well done. The contrast perfectly symbolized how far we had come. Have you ever discovered something unethical in your workplace? How did you handle it? Share your story in the comments below. If this video helped you understand the importance of data integrity and ethical courage in the workplace, please like, subscribe, and share it with others who might be facing similar challenges. Remember that sometimes the most powerful act isn't opening the threatening box, but forwarding it to those who can help create accountability. Thank you for watching, and may you always find the courage to stand up for what's right in your professional journey.